Hey everybody, Byron here, back with Who the Hell Asked, and back with Slade for the gaming news. A couple of smaller topics, but poor Ubisoft, that's all I'm gonna say right now.
Yeah, some absolutely crazy stuff going on at Ubisoft, and without further ado, let's get underway with it. So, canceled D&D Beyond subscriptions has forced Hasbro's hand.
Yes, absolutely. So, if you remember, last week we covered that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro were going to unleash OpenGL 1.1, which is going to fuck over a lot of people. TLDR. That's your TLDR. It's going to fuck a lot of people. But yeah, the people pushed back. Some companies that were going to be affected by this created their own tabletop RPG open license in response to this OGL changes, which is crazy to think about, Slade. People are
Yeah, it is absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Oh, let me read a funny comment. However, it's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1.
Damn.
First, they will not be releasing the new OGL today because we need to make sure get it right. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. Nah, bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah, I'm calling bulljive on that too. What the fuck?
Yeah, you lost because you wanted to make all the money, even more money, and potentially hurt the tabletop RPG industry as a whole. So no. Oh, and I love this line. Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before any updates to the OGL.
Also bullshit.
Yeah, the drafts you've seen were attempting to do just that. We always wanted to delight fans, create experiences, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you realized people fucking caught onto it because it's the D&D community, and they are some of the most tight-knit communities out there. But yeah,
what happens when greedy corporations try to have their cake and eat it too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, licensees were pushing back. Kobold Press and MCDM put out statements that they will move away from all versions of the OGL or offering up their own gaming licenses. And Paizo, the company behind Pathfinder, they are also making their own license. So it's going to get very interesting in the world of the Dungeons and Dragons. So, yeah, there's about to be a lot of open RPG licenses for people to use that aren't Wizards of the Coast, and it's going to be a very interesting time in that community. For sure.
I'm so glad that the community was able to come together and impact them in a meaningful way.
Yeah, absolutely, because this would have been
I see this as an absolute
This would have been a blow because obviously the pandemic helped popularize a lot of like the online D&D shows and just Dungeons and Dragons as a whole. And so, yeah, this would have been really bad, but hey, you did it. You did it, Reddit. You did it, Twitter. You did it, YouTube. You did it, D&D.
We win. The internet wins.
Speaking of gamers winning, it's about time that we heard from Microsoft finally. Don't we, Slade?
That's right. So Microsoft announced that we are getting a developer direct on the 25th of January, which they announced it pretty far in advance, honestly. I was actually kind of surprised.
Yeah, well,
the developers, go ahead.
Well, it's not surprising considering, like, they announced their E3 presentations, like, a few weeks early. But yeah, go on, Slade, about the developer direct.
The E3, so, like, yeah, well, back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
So the studios in questions are Mojang Studios, ZeniMax Studios, Arcane Austin, and Turn 10 Studios. So don't expect to see, Silksong or anything else there. It's just going to be projects from these studios.
Yep. Well, let me read you a byline because, obviously, what's the big elephant in the room when it comes to Xbox and Bethesda? Starfield.
I would say it's probably Starfield. Or Elder Scrolls as well.
Well, yeah, but like Starfield.
But for right now, it's Starfield because that game's release is imminent.
Yeah, so to dedicate the proper amount of time for a deep dive into Bethesda Game Studio Starfield, a standalone show is in the works. So don't expect anything about Starfield here, except maybe they announce when that show is, but even then, that's not a guarantee.
Yeah, so again, that's going to be June 25th. I believe that's
January 25th. You said June.
Yeah, I said June. I meant to say January. We were talking about E3, damn it.
But yes.
12 p.m. Pacific time. So we're looking forward to
3
that.
p.m. Eastern. We're going to hear about the Elder Scrolls Online, which will probably get the shortest amount of time out of all of these because it'll just be updates and major features to Elder Scrolls Online. We're going to get stuff about Forza Motorsport, Minecraft Legends, and Redfall. And according to Aaron Greenberg of Xbox, the show will be about 43 minutes long, and it will just be those 4 teams. Just those 4 games will be there. So, I'm interested to see how this format goes. Because, like, this may be Xbox's version of, like, the Nintendo Direct, the State of Play, but their own twist on it.
Well, with it being, like, a developer thing, I imagine they're going to talk to, like, all the developers one-on-one.
Apparently, the developers will be presenting this.
Yeah.
It'll just be the developers.
I don't think it's going to be quite the same as a Nintendo Direct.
Well, no, because these games are going to get extended showcases because there's only going to be 4 games. Well, 3 of them that will get extended showcase. But hey, at least we're hearing from Xbox.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, hopefully, more of these happen in the future because, like, goddamn, like, we complain sometimes about, like, oh, the droughts of, like, a Nintendo Direct or, like, the droughts of, like, a State of Play, even though the State of Plays have been actually pretty good as of late.
Yeah, plus it also feels like the only time you ever hear from Xbox is when they're acquiring somebody or an acquiring hits a bump in the road.
Or E3.
Yeah. So it is nice to get some news.
Yep.
Speaking of acquiring and stuff like that, moving on.
Yeah, Ubisoft is acquiring Sadness.
Yes. So we got a lot of Ubisoft news. We'll start with the probably actual, like, factual news that, like, we know 100% about.
Yep.
So their sales this previous quarter have underperformed expectations.
Yes, that's right. So Ubisoft is revising its Q3 2022-2023 net booking targets, now expecting approximately 725 million euro versus the prior target of 830 million euro, with the notable detail of notably resulting lower than expected performances of both Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope and Just Dance 2023.
That is correct. So the Mario and Rabbids information is pretty interesting because I figured it would sell pretty well, but I think the reason why the first one was so successful is because there's a novelty of seeing Mario in an XCOM game.
Yeah, like I think it's a twofold reason why I think Mario and Rabbids
novelty's worn off.
Sparks of Hope. Yeah, the novelty worn off, A, and B, they took 5 years to get the next game out.
That is true. So at any point there, like, if there was interest in it, it would have probably considerably waned.
Yeah, like
then.
2 to 3 years, I think, was like the perfect time window to have the next Mario and Rabbids out. They took 5 years, though. Part of it, obviously, pandemic, like, of course. Yeah. But yeah, and we'll get to the lovely Skull and Bones in a hot second. That ever evolving fucking situation. But yeah, Ubisoft are planning $200 million in cost reductions, including natural attrition and divesting of non-core interest. And guess what, Slade? For the umpteenth time, Skull and Bones is delayed.
Yeah, for the billionth time.
Now,
So,
if you're
go
wondering
ahead.
what the fuck a Skull and Bones is, long story short, it was going to be at first like a side game developed based off the Assassin's Creed Black Flag's pirate ship section, which I believe that was one of the things people loved about that game were the pirate ship segments.
Yeah, that's correct. It's one of the reasons that I think Assassin's Creed kind of made a huge turnaround after the failure of Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah. But then it turned into a separate game, developed in part at Ubisoft Singapore with help from the Singapore government. And it's just been a fucking shit show ever since. And people
Yeah,
have
I think they need to just bite the bullet and cancel
Yeah,
it. Like,
people-
honestly.
Yeah, people have been memeingly calling it, oh, it's gonna be the Sea of Thieves killer. Because that's the other big pirate game. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that would require it to come out.
True. Apparently, Skull and Bones will now be released early 2023/2024, so that's a pretty big fucking timeline. This game
Oh,
has
for
been in
sure.
some form of development for a decade. A decade. Like, I was
That's
going...
the craziest development window I've heard of. I know that fucking, whatchamacallit?
Oh, yeah.
Duke Nukem Forever was in development for like 20 years or something like that.
Beyond Good and Evil 2, that's been
Yeah,
also
Beyond
in
Good and
dev
Evil
hell
2, yeah.
at Ubisoft, funnily enough.
Yeah, Ubisoft's got a lot of tough times. So let's go into some of the other stuff as well.
Yeah.
They also, there's been reports that they are canceling a number of titles
Yeah.
as well due to some of the stuff they're cutting back on. One insider stated, hopefully it's one of the 30 million battle royales that they're developing that they're canceling.
Which,
I
yeah.
was unaware that they were developing hella battle royales. So.
Well, look at like EA these days. They're
That's true.
getting back up in popularity, partially because of Hazelight Studios, which has been a great part of EA, obviously. Shoutouts to Jose Fadas.
Yes, we love that, man.
But also, their games as a service games have been propping them up a bit. So I get why Ubisoft would go in that direction, but god damn, it's looking rough. it's been looking real rough. Yeah, apparently they've had to cancel other multiple games. Apparently not Beyond Good and Evil 2, even though that game should be canceled at this point.
Right.
And according to Jeff Grubb, who is now with Giant Bomb, Ubisoft had apparently at one point did the rounds to propose acquisitions and mergers with other similar companies and got laughed at because it's too unwieldy, because guess what? It has like 20,000 employees.
Yeah, that shit was pretty crazy when I heard about that. I mean, you gotta come and try to actively get acquired by these other companies. They got a lot of really good IP, like the Assassin's Creed series, Rainbow Six. Honestly, Tom Clancy in general, as much as Byron absolutely hates hearing about Tom Clancy games.
Okay, that was just 23 where where fucking Ubisoft announced like 5 of them in a fucking row, and I was sick of it.
Yeah, but Ubisoft has a lot of iconic series, so the fact that they got laughed out of the room multiple times.
Yeah, even like
like
older
acquisition deals.
even like older nostalgic series, like I don't know, fucking Rayman. You know, that old guy. You know,
yeah, that's pretty crazy. So like the fact that they got laughed out of the room is like almost unconscionable to me. It's like it's absolutely insane.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
So the only thing I can think of is, well, either A, their studio's too large, you got too many people.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of an excuse. I think that they're offering it up for too much money.
Yeah.
Is the problem.
Yeah, and yeah, like they list some of their most popular series: Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and a whole bunch of Tom Clancy. Which that's true. Those are like their strongest performing IP, their most popular IP, their most well-known IP. But let me read you one last thing from the Ubisoft Update PDF. This overall context has triggered a full review of our revenue prospects, leading to an increased cautiousness. What do you think that's going to mean, Slade? increased cautiousness. What do you think that's going to mean for Ubisoft?
I think that's going to mean that the publishers are going to have all of their developers on fucking very thin ropes. You're going to work on exactly only these games and projects that are successful and absolutely nothing else.
Yeah.
They're probably cutting back on a lot of, if there even are any at this point, any individual passion projects any of the developers might have.
Well, I was gonna say like Skull and Bones, but like that's a government project, so
yeah,
like that
it's
has to
literally
come.
a government project. Oh my god.
Yeah, because again, Ubisoft are working with the Singapore government, on this, Skull and Bones game, and I imagine the Singapore government is not happy with Ubisoft right now. But
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, but let me read the bullet points real quick. Ensure all our energy is focused on building our brands and live services into some of the most powerful within the industry. As a consequence, we have decided to cancel 3 unannounced projects on top of the 4 already announced in July 2022. So apparently they've already canceled 4 projects prior to today.
Which is insane.
Yeah, so 7 games on the axe. Again, Beyond Good and Evil 2 is not one of them. Skull and Bones can't be one of them. Probably insert some Rayman thing getting axed.
Yeah, as you know, Rayman just keeps getting cucked.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're failing. They won't put out a Rayman game.
Yeah, maybe Rayman will save them, finally. Depreciate around 500 million euros of capitalized R&D concerning upcoming premium and free-to-play games and the newly canceled titles. This notably reflects the increased cautiousness related to the current challenging video game market and macroeconomic environment, as well as the necessary increased focus on fewer titles, which I think this could kind of circle back to that Jason Schreier tweet that we covered last week.
Yeah.
Where games are taking longer to develop. If you're starting development of a game now, it's probably going to be more than likely for the PS6, maybe the tail end of the PS5.
Yeah.
And finally,
what does it say? It doesn't even feel like the console generation's ever like truly begun.
No, well, it's begun now because I sent Slade a picture of this. PS5s are actually in stores now. They're real.
That's true. So now we're actually seeing a lot of PlayStations in stock, which is a great sign. That means that the scalpers are finally starting to lose.
Yeah, I will in the editing of this insert right here the image of the PS5s that I saw in stock at my local Walmart. There were 3 of the Horizon bundles. Disc versions only bundles, but there were 3 PS5s I saw in the wild. So those exist. The generation finally starting, but the third and final point, as part of the increased strategic focus, adapt our organization to a more challenging market with a expected net reduction of our non-variable cost base of more than 200 million euros over the next 2 years. This will be achieved through targeted restructuring, divesting some non-core assets, and usual natural attrition. Ubisoft will continue to look at hiring highly talented people for its biggest brands and live services. Ubisoft is in deep shit right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All
right, let's move on to our last bit of news. Let's talk about the Callisto Protocol.
Oh, yes. Let me re-pull this up because
I'll go over it a little bit. So it appears that the Callisto Protocol underperformed expectations with the development cost of 200 billion won, which is roughly 162 million US dollars.
Yep.
Over 3 years, it appears that it has underperformed its expectations of 5 million units sold. As of this point, it's only sold 2 million units.
Yeah,
total.
about that. So yeah, like another deep depressing, like, oh, game didn't meet the sales expectations.
Yeah, so this isn't that surprising, though. This is kind of some surprise Pikachu face kind of involved because
Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's a horror
Pikachu
game that they sold for $70 that was bugging incomplete on release. And it's one of those things where I felt like there was more focus being attached to its battle pass rather than the base game itself.
Yeah.
So a combination of all those things happening and oh my gosh, our game's failing, why?
Yeah.
And it's just to nobody's surprise other than
And
theirs.
it's a funny thing because at one point, Callisto Protocol was referred to as both a new AAA title and also a quadruple A title.
Yeah, just because of its budget. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. Man, yeah, kind of a tale of two moods this week. On the one hand, gamers won with D&D and Xbox finally talking, but on the other hand, Ubisoft lost and Krafton lost with Callisto Protocol.
Oh yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot more losses by these corporations as
Yeah,
things go
like,
forward.
hey, look, maybe Ubisoft will sell some of its other IP. Maybe somebody will actually be able to use Rayman.
Or they could just go around and start begging more companies to acquire them. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised Xbox didn't fucking jump on it.
Well,
like they have with literally everything else.
well, I would. You know what? I'm gonna throw in a weird prediction this year. You know what? Since I think the Xbox acquisition of Active Blizzard will go through, I think Sony could make a play for Ubisoft.
I could see that. I don't think it happened simply because I just don't think Sony's interested.
That's, you know what? That's also fair, to be honest.
Which is pretty damning.
Yeah. Oh, God. But yeah, hopefully we get solid numbers for Mario and Rabbids in a couple of weeks when we do the Nintendo sales episode.
Oh, for sure.
Because that's something I'd be curious about. Because, like, if the original Mario and Rabbids did, like, 5 million units or something crazy like that.
I mean, this shit probably didn't even hit 2 million.
We'll see. We will see when we cover the Nintendo sales numbers. But yeah, what a wild week, Slade. What a wild week.
Yeah, what a wild week it is. Hearing that Activision's whoring themselves out and just absolutely failing.
Ubisoft, not Activision.
Ubisoft. I meant to say Ubisoft, sorry. But anyways, this has been Slade.
And this has been Byron. We will see you all next week with the gaming news. Bye-bye, everybody.